Visiting Germany this autumn of 1930, it's not easy if you're a newcomer to be sure about what you see. Is the countryside out there dull, drab, poverty-stricken, or simply peaceful? Do these flats house a contented working class or a revolutionary proletariat? Are these factories typical of German industry or the exception? Are these middle-class Germans as confident and well-off as they look? Like many countries today, Germany shows several faces at once, nowhere more clearly than here in Berlin, the capital where anything goes if you've got the money.
Mein Herz lässt dich grüßen, nur mit dir allein kann es glücklich sein. All meine Träume, die süßen, leg ich in den Gruß mit hinein. Lass nicht die Tage verfließen, bald ist der Frühling dahin. Liebling, mein Herz lässt dich grüßen und dir sagen, wie gut ich dir bin.
By day, you can see the big difference between the haves and have-nots in this time of depression. And here in Berlin, as throughout Germany, after the general election on the 14th of September, the people awoke to the startling news of the election result. Adolf Hitler and his party, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, have made a spectacular breakthrough at the polls. They have come from nowhere to command a total of 107 seats in the new Reichstag, not 106 as even the party's official newspaper at first put it, and are now the second largest party. They have polled nearly 6.5 million votes. But who is Adolf Hitler? Who are the Nazis? And how have they been able to achieve these remarkable election results? Adolf Hitler, leader of the Nazi Party, now mixes with rich industrialists and claims that millions stand behind him. This is an extraordinary turn in the career of a former army corporal once jailed for high treason. It all began just after the Great War had ended. Germany had been defeated and had lost 2 million dead fighting on two fronts. At home, tens of thousands had died of cold and starvation as the Allies blockaded the country. The supply of arms and munitions to the army had, however, made vast fortunes for a few, like the industrialist Krupps. As the war ended, Berlin was in revolution. And there were riots in many cities, especially in central Germany and in Bavaria, as the new Weimar Republic was set up, under Ebert as president. The middle classes and the ruling party, the Social Democrats, were frightened by the workers' and soldiers' councils which were being set up, as in Russia. They feared a Soviet revolution. The army crushed the Berlin Revolt. It was called Bloody Week. But to the south, in the chief city of Bavaria, Munich, something strange happened. In Munich, without fighting or bloodshed, a council of revolutionary committees ruled the city as an independent socialist republic for 6 months. Then it was crushed by troops from North Germany. They used terror to destroy support for the socialists. They feared they might be in the pay of Russia. With everyone looking for Reds under the bed, several shadowy organizations came out of hiding. One of them was founded by Karl Drexler, a toolmaker. It was called the German Workers' Party. In spite of its name, it was an extreme right-wing group. Drexler blamed the Jews for defeat in the war, for the terms of the Versailles Peace Treaty, and for the economic chaos. This typical cartoon shows a German Jew inviting death to leave ruined Soviet Russia for Germany, saying, "Enter death. Our people in Germany have made everything ready." Of course, these were lies, and few people even bothered to listen to what Drexler was saying. But Adolf Hitler, a corporal in the Bavarian army and a propaganda official, did listen. He saw that this anti-Jewish attitude, called anti-Semitism, could become a powerful political weapon. When food is short and times are hard and people are desperate, they look for someone to blame. He encouraged them to blame the Jews. Hitler joined the German Workers' Party in September 1919 and became its propaganda specialist. He was so good at public speaking that more and more people came to the party meetings. Hitler quickly took over as leader. In 1920, he added National Socialist to the party's name to give it nationwide appeal. And the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the NSDAP, got the nickname Nazi Party. Next year, he was formally elected as Führer, leader of the movement. Soon the party's aims were being backed up by his stormtroopers. There were clashes with the supporters of other extremist political parties, especially with the communists. Life for many was very hard after the war. By 1923, the value of money had fallen so fast that it was worth more when sold by weight as scrap paper. Every day there were long queues of people looking for work. At such a time, many were ready to listen to anyone who said he had all the answers. By the summer of 1923, Hitler had built the Nazis into a powerful organization with some 55,000 members. They started their own newspaper, the Völkische Beobachter, with money given by wealthy supporters. More importantly, Hitler was secretly being supported by the Bavarian government. We've obtained a letter written by Dr. Perner, police president of Munich. It shows he was shielding the Nazis. He writes to two leading right-wing politicians that Hitler is an extraordinarily skillful and powerful promoter of our common cause. He is a most powerful organizer and is known as the best speaker of the National Socialist Party in the whole of Bavaria. I'm sure he will be of the utmost service. And a secret report from the Home Office in Berlin shows that the Nazi Party received large contributions from the Bavarian Confederation of Industry because the Nazis promised to smash the trade union movement. Our evidence also suggests that the Bavarian government was involved in a military plot to march north to Berlin to overthrow the government. This plan fell through, but Hitler and his stormtroopers with General Ludendorff instead tried to take over Munich on the 9th of November 1923. It was a fiasco. 14 were killed. Ludendorff and Hitler were arrested and tried for high treason. The trial was a political sensation. Hitler was given the minimum possible sentence of 5 years on the understanding that he'd be out on probation after about 6 months. He was imprisoned in Landsberg Castle. In December 1924, Hitler was released from prison after 9 months, and he set about rebuilding the party, which during his time in prison had split into a number of squabbling groups. His chief lieutenants were Julius Streicher, who hated Jews, Rudolf Hess, his private secretary, and Dr. Goebbels, a propaganda expert. The stormtroopers were reorganized into battalions, thousands strong, to guard Nazi meetings, break up other meetings, and terrorize Hitler's opponents. But by now, the workers were better off. And the middle classes were also doing well. American money under the Dawes Plan had helped restore the German economy. The coalition government got renewed support. Nothing went right for the Nazis. There was little public interest now in their wild propaganda. In May 1928, the Nazis made little impact on the national elections, but there had been a change. Before 1928, most Nazi supporters lived in the small towns and cities of southern Germany. Now, for the first time, the Nazis had gained much of their support from northern Germany and from mainly country areas. Why did this change take place? Could the Nazis take advantage of this small success? Under what conditions might Nazism spread to the towns where the socialists, the communists, or the government parties were powerful? Why, only 2 years later, have the Nazis become a major force? To understand why the Nazis have been so successful in the countryside, we traveled north to Schleswig-Holstein, an area of fenland. Most of the people are peasant farmers, fiercely independent men and women whose small holdings are rarely more than 5 hectares. Here, as in the rest of northern Germany, 1927 was a year of poor harvests. But an outbreak of foot and mouth disease and a sudden collapse in the market for agricultural products soon threatened peasants with ruin. Many couldn't pay their debts. They were driven off their farms, and their land and cattle were sold. By 1928, the region was getting violent. There were pickets, mass demonstrations, and arson attacks. The Nazis saw their chance. Meetings were arranged in every hamlet and village. They blamed the farmers' troubles on the Jews and the democratic system. Posters like this urged, "German farmers, farmers, it is a matter of your house and home." The German worker expected the revolution to bring honor and beauty into his life. Now he is, when he can find work, the starving wage slave of the bank Jews. And now it's your turn, German farmers. Therefore, farmer, wake up. Join the ranks of our defense force. Fight with us in the National Socialist German Workers' Party. It worked. In local elections last year, 1929, some villages supported the Nazis 100%. Then, in America last year, the great financial crash stopped the flow of money to help German trade. Unemployment has now risen from under 10% 2 years ago to nearly 23% today, and only 63% of the population are in full-time work. As in the early 20s, economic difficulties have increased the appeal of the extremist parties. The working class has moved towards support for the communists at the expense of the socialists. The middle classes seem to be deserting the German nationalists for the Nazis. Our investigations suggest that in these troubled times, it is the disillusioned middle-class voters, the small traders, the artisans, the farmers, who see the Nazis offering real hope for the future. And above all, it's people below the age of 35 who come out into the squares to listen to what the Hitler movement has got to say. The question is, what will Hitler do now? Will he join a government? For the Nazis are now the second largest party in the Reichstag. Will other groups work with him? As a nationalist and a socialist, it seems he could go either way. Will he choose left or right? Will he control his wilder followers? The past year has provided some pointers to the future. Until now, most people have dismissed the Nazis as hooligans. Whether right or left-wing hasn't always been clear. But now it seems that the Conservatives are worried by their loss of support to the Nazis. They're trying to build bridges to Hitler and his party, in spite of their dislike of their revolutionary speeches and the Nazi stormtroopers. Here's part of a letter dated 8th of April this year, 1930, by a right-wing politician. He claims even big landowners are behind the movement today, and a great number of the sons of our leading industrialists, for instance, burglars, are active in its ranks. In August 1927, Kirdorf, the director of one of Germany's largest mining companies, joined the Nazi party and gave 100,000 Reichsmarks to the party. How much is Hitler getting from these people? He always claims, "Millions stand behind me." Does he really mean millions of Reichsmarks from such people? But it's not just a question of money. Other industrialists and conservative politicians have done a great deal to make the Nazis respectable to the voters. Alfred Hugenberg, for instance, is the leader of the German Nationalist Party. The ex-managing director of Krupp Steel, Hugenberg today controls over 500 newspapers and owns Germany's new film industry. Yet, despite the fact that he's the leader of a rival nationalist party, Hugenberg has been using his media empire to build up the image of Hitler and his party. Many Germans have first seen Hitler and his brown-shirted stormtroopers on the newsreels of Hugenberg's Universal Film Corporation. Suddenly, Hitler has become news. There's no doubt that these right-wing politicians and industrialists are hoping to use the Nazis as a defense against the growing power of the communists. There's a constant fear that through the communists, Russia might get control over what happens here in Germany. In his early career, before the attack that failed in Munich, Hitler was clearly content simply to beat the drum for other nationalist leaders. But Hitler is now the leader of the largest right-wing party in Germany. His stormtroopers seem a powerful force. The other parties seem uncertain. Will Hitler be content to go on in a secondary role? Will he seek power for himself? Some see him as the savior of Germany and will go on voting for him. Others see him as a terrible danger, the tiger at the gate, and are asking his new supporters, can you ride the tiger?